To be seeing you here on the new Turner and Hooch series. How different and similar is it to the movie?
Well, here's the thing. There are differences, but the movie is so good. Like I don't know of anyone who, you go, oh, Turner and Hooch, and they're like, oh my God, I love that movie. Like I don't know anyone who's like, no, I didn't like it. So, we tried not to steer too far from, the original in terms of tone and content. But it is serialized, which is different, and there is an overarching kind of story. So each week you'll be presented with a case that you're going to want to solve, but at the same time, there's an overarching case throughout the whole series, kind of a larger case that has to do with Scott Turner Sr. and his death, and kind of figuring that out. So it is serialized, so it's different from the movie in that way.
Lately, we've seen you in more dramatic work. What was it about this particular project that interested you?
Well, I've worked with Matt Nix, who's the executive producer and writer of Turner and Hooch, before on Burn Notice, and then you mix McG, who directed the pilot, into the mix, and it's just like, that's like a dream team of cool people, and ultimately for this particular project, it just, first of all, it's the property Turner and Hooch is an amazing property, and the what was I going to say is that the ability to like take Turner and Hooch and kind of do the continuation of it was just going to be like a dream come true. I mean, to be able, I remember it growing up, right? And just falling in love with it. So the idea of being able to be a part of that tentpole kind of franchise was great.
How was James Clark, your character, originally described to you?
So he's Captain James Mendes.
They changed it
from Clark to Mendes. Sorry. Hold on, I'll take that again. So my character, Captain James Mendes, was described to me as kind of like this gruff, hard-hitting, tough as nails, chief of the U.S. Marshals, who runs a tight ship, is kind of spit shine, polished, and just kind of really buttoned down, but secretly has the soft spot for Hooch, the dog. So even though he's kind of gruff with the dog, and he's probably the first person to be feeding him snacks late at night, under the desk.
Were you familiar then with any of the co-stars before working with them?
Yeah, so I hadn't worked, other than Matt Nix, who was the executive producer or is the executive producer and writer, I did not know any of the other cast. I haven't worked with them before. Other than Reginald, he's been in Die Hard and the original Turner and Hooch. So, but we only had, me and him only had like 1 or 2 days together, kind of towards the end. So we only saw each other in passing, but I had not worked with the other cast before. But I'm so happy that the cast is the cast, because, it can go either way, and not kidding, not joking, not just kind of saying this for media's sake, but we were so lucky and fortunate to have just a cast from top to bottom that was, just as human beings, good people, and really talented. So it was just a dream job. We got to go to set every day and just laugh and make each other crack up, and, play with dogs. And there was no ego, and no one was like drama. And everyone was just about the work. I think also we were so lucky to be working during COVID. and protected by Disney. So we felt, comfortable. Like all of us were tested, 3 times a week, and everyone that was around us was as well. So we felt we were in this bubble. So there was some kind of, camaraderie that existed within that. So anyway, they're all amazing.
Is there much room for improv when it came to filming, or did you guys mostly find everything was completely cool on the page?
No, so that's what was great. I mean, I don't know if you've ever worked with animals before, but anything can happen. So you can rehearse it and you can train them to do whatever, but the minute that the cameras roll, it's like you want them to go left, they go right. You want them to go right, they go left. You want them to go down, they go up. So we just from the jump had to be prepared for anything. So, with our guest stars, we're always like, look, you got to know your stuff backwards and forwards, because you've got animal trainers, in your eye line doing this. You've got squeaky toys and dogs that are just going to do whatever they're going to do. So you had to be ready for that. But what ended up happening is that it gave us like a level of freedom, and the creatives were, smart enough to just go, okay, look, let's get what we need to get. And then, let's play. Like they allowed us to just kind of do improv and kind of take it where it's going to go. And the camera and crew were ready for that. So a lot of the magic that happens on camera is totally, some of it's not scripted at all, because it's just following the dog and going with a lot of the stuff.
If you can tease, what were some of your favorite episodes or even memorable moments you've had from filming Turner and Hooch so far?
Well, one of my favorite episodes, definitely, and you'll see it without giving too much away, but I'm used to being like the young gun who's running around on the streets, right? And now I'm like the chief who's like in the office, who's like, you're messing up, get in my office now,
You've come full circle from Southland.
Exactly. So one of my favorite episodes was the chief actually gets to go out in the field because there's a case that happens that's like really close and personal to him. And so he ends up being out in the field instead of like, riding a desk or being like the politician that he has to be as the chief of the marshals. So that was a fun episode to get back out and, get to do some fun stuff. One of my favorite memories is I remember in the pilot, it was kind of one of those moments where you just kind of go, what do I do for a living? Like, oh my God, I'm standing there delivering this speech, and Hooch is supposed to be underneath, like kind of between my legs, pawing at me. And we got a couple takes of that, but then Mick G's like, okay, let's do it again. And then he lays on the floor between my legs, and he's got these fake dog paws, and he's like whacking me in the stomach as I'm delivering the lines and we're rolling. And I'll never forget like that moment as like, oh my God, what is happening?
Again, what do I do for a living?
Exactly.
What do you think it is about this sweet series that's going to become a fast fan favorite?
I think at the end of the day, it's one of these shows that harkens back to like those late 80s, early 90s movies like Die Hard, Rambo or Clear and Present Danger, or, where there's something about them that is kinder and gentler, but still kind of fun and campy and enjoyable. And I think that the show has something for everybody in it. So being a parent, like I know what it's like to sit down on it and watch a show and just be like, okay, I'm watching this for my kids. Okay, I just can't wait for it to be over. But this show truly is like, I'll watch it and my kids will totally like to watch it. So I really think that it's got something for everyone in that regard. It's got romance and dog slobber and buddy cop and action. I mean, the action is for real. Like, just, I mean, Mick G, Charlie's Angels, like it's like it's pretty intense. So, you know, there's car chases and plot twists and, you know, solving cases. So you've got enough for the parents and you got enough for like the kids, and hopefully people, you know, just really, it's one of those shows with the dog, like it's got heart. So you just kind of can't help but smile, have a good time. And I think we all need that right now, right? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
after everything that's gone on, it's just, you know, it's a show that we can all sit down and snuggle into each other and just laugh and smile and walk away and be like, that was great. Like I enjoyed that, you know?
You've been a part of a number of outstanding series, from American Horror Story to Southland that we touched on, to Scream to Banshee. What are some of your personal favorite projects that you've worked on?
Yeah. Well, Third Watch early on definitely is, you know, kind of like my coming out party, right? Like that was really like my first big show, and it still remains like all of the people that I did that show with are still best friends. So that's become a, you know, we're still a family. Southland for sure, because, you know, I just, the work that we did on that show and what that show was, I'm so proud of, you know, more than a lot of the things that I can look at. Banshee, another one, just because it was, at the time, it was kind of different and groundbreaking and you know, exciting. And it was just a different kind of show. And Haunting of Hill House, because that was kind of the first time I was on a show that it just seemed like everyone was talking about. So that was a cool thing for me, to just be like on something that you know, it was on everyone's mind. And you know, there's an episode in there, episode number 6, I think, where we shot it in maybe 4 oneers. So you're doing like, you know, I think the longest take we did was like almost 18 minutes.
Wow.
So, you know, technically it was also pretty special. Yeah.
You have any other recent projects you've been busy working on other than Turner and Hooch?
Yeah. So I'm going to be lucky enough to be directing my first feature film. Yeah, it'll be great. We're gonna be shooting that in August in Los Angeles. You know, it's a low budget indie, but it's gonna be my first feature. I've directed, you know, commercial stuff before, but this will be, yeah, that'll be my first kind of like feature length, starring Bruce Campbell, who I'm like I've been a huge fan of forever, and so the ability to work with him, you know, is just like, I get like chicken skin. Like when I'm like emailing, I'm like, oh my God, I'm emailing with
Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, that's Bruce Campbell, you know, say tool shed. Like, you know, so yeah, I'm super excited for that. And
is that a horror project, or is that, you know, what kind of project is that, if you can tease?
It's kind of a revenge piece, but it's set in the kind of thriller horror genre, but less horror and more horrific, if I can kind of drill down. It all takes place in a cabin, but it's not Evil Dead kind of stuff, but it's about you're not sure who's captive and who's captor. It's kind of very
ambiguous like that. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't want to give too much away, but it'll be super exciting.
Anything else you've been working
on? There's that. Finished. Yeah, we did Turner and Hooch in Vancouver. What else? I do the voice for Lexus, which I love. That's been amazing and fun. But other than that, like, I'm just, you know, working on some recipes and trying to just be, you know, be home. Like I was away for like 8 months during the thick of COVID. shooting, Turner and Hooch in Vancouver. And, we were kind of, stuck across the border in the sense that if I would need 14 days quarantine, like the minute that I left, I'd have to go back and quarantine
Right.
for 14 days. So you're looking at like a solid month of having to be off in order to get out of there. And even then Disney was a little worried that, who knows what was going to happen with COVID and stuff. So I hadn't seen my family in a really, really long time shooting it. And so just being home and spending time with them is huge for me. So
Good.
just like whatever, as long as I'm at home.
Good. Well, what would you like to say then to everyone who are fans and supporters of the wonderful work that you do?
I'm just so blessed. Like I'm lucky to do what I love to do, and even luckier that people appreciate it and support the work and support me. So, I'm just so humbled by it. And I appreciate every single person that, goes, "Hey man, I love what you do and keep doing it." And I support that. So thank you, truly.